we looked at people and described them as a heathen based on their culture, based on their ethnicity.
Yeah.
So Europeans were Christian. Indians, as they called them, were heathens. Native Americans were heathens.
Purely off physical attributes.
Purely, black people were heathens purely based on color. There's no, no mention of the fact that the gospel went to Africa before it ever came to Europe.
Right.
No mention of the fact that the gospel began in the Middle East. It was like, no, European is civilized, and I want to talk about civilization or civility in a moment. But this really captured me, and this was written by historian Rebecca Ann Gotts, or Goetz, I'm not sure how to say that, in The Baptism of Early Modern Virginia. And she wrote, or she kind of said this: just as parents pass down physical characteristics to their children, they also pass down their religion. This was the idea. So hereditary heathenism tethered race to religion. So from the earliest days in North America, colonists employed religion cultural categories to signify that European meant Christian, Native American or African meant heathen. Over time, these categories simplified and hardened into racial designation. So it was like to hear
That's intense,
that's crazy,
bro.
right?
That's intense, yeah.
That affected me when I read that.
I can assume as a missionary too, when you come across, so many people groups to come into it. Could you imagine having come into it with those types of thoughts in your head?
It boggles my mind. And it boggles my mind that in many ways, and I think that like when we talk about missions, there's a lot of different, there's categories that there's people out there who just say like missionaries ruined cultures. There's this view out there that missionaries ruined culture. They went in, they brought, disease, they ruined, and there's examples of that, but the overwhelming experience of historical missions has been that we understand cultures because of these missionaries. We understand the uniqueness of culture and ethnicity and diversity because missionaries went to places. They became a part of that place. I guess I'm making a case for it's not true that missionaries ruined culture. There's examples of that, but more than not, there is not that. So that's why it bothered me, because I've been a student of missions for so long, and I was aware of the fact that missions in North America did not get off to a glorious start. We did begin in some, because there was a mixing, and I don't know, again, I'm no expert on these things, but it feels like there was a lot of mixing of my gospel message and my colonization. I'm here to colonize,
absolutely.
But I also am going to bring what I think is important. And those two things don't mix well.
Right.
They just don't.
Yeah, one thing that stuck out to me from this book was the baptism vows.
Yes.
The baptism vows were, to fulfill like you said, this kind of religious part of the conquest, you could let slaves get baptized. But as a part of their declaration of their faith before the baptism, they had to explicitly state that this freedom that they receive spiritually is in no way connected to their physical, actual, freedom in society.
That's how much they knew this was all.
And it's like,
I mean, how does that happen?
Whoa. Like, when you write something like that,
So
that
you're free in Christ.
But that's it though.
But not free.
Yeah. And you'll be free when you die as a slave. And it's like, man.
And it really shook me, and again, I want to stay here where we are on what we're talking about right now, but just as a general, it kind of rocked my idea. And we've talked about this a bit of like, why would any black person become a Christian?
Yeah, right. That was one thing that, he kind of glanced over a few times, was like, and still, the black people found a way to still meet, and people still found a way to worship. And it's like, what? For what?